Cool. So we are broadcasting. Let's see who's going to be jumping in here with us. What's up? What's up, Renee? Terry? Kelsey jumping in. Cool. Cool. Give it just a couple seconds here and we'll rock and roll.
Yes, sir.
What's up, Don? Little one of the Chase boys jumping in. I like it. Terry, what's up, man? Missed you guys in Scottsdale as well, but I wasn't goofing off. I can promise you that. I was getting some air miles in as well. All right, cool. Well, I'm gonna hit record, Albie, and we can rock and roll. I'm gonna hit the. What's up, everybody, man? Thank you guys for jumping into another episode of Export Mentors Live. Albie, this is episode 39. Kind of hard to believe, but man, it's been awesome, and it's really, given us the opportunity to tap into the horsepower of the Honey Badger Nation, and appreciate the boys over at the Fast Forward Movement and ladies to really help push to keep this together and just coming from a place of contribution and adding value, and extremely grateful and thankful for the opportunity to be able to do this each and every week with you guys and just add some value. Today's no different. So Albie, brother, I appreciate you making the time, jumping in. I know today's going to be fire. And I know we were kind of talking about before. I mean, I pulled up the presentation from EGS when you crushed this. Man, it's been a few years ago, but absolute gold nonetheless, and excited for you to dive in.
Yeah, this presentation is a presentation that I didn't create. I inherited as I started taking the position of one of the speakers at EGS, going all the way back to 2014. Of course, we've tweaked it here and there, but the cool part about this is that the principles, which is what we're going to really go over on a high level, have not changed at all. And the cool thing is although I haven't given this presentation and training in actually since 2016, I did have the pleasure of watching Mr. Jay Kinder give it when we were in last week when we were in Phoenix. And so without further ado, I'm going to dip into it because we got a lot my goal is to get off in and out in less than 60 minutes. And we're 3 minutes in, and I respect everybody's time. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
Perfect. Make sure you guys grab your trusty notepad and pen, because you're definitely going to want to stab some notes as Albie rocks and rolls through here. So,
all right, where is desktop? Yeah, okay. Oh, I gotta hit the share button. There we go. And the next thing would be getting rid of all this stuff and actually hitting the present button, right? There we go.
Yeah.
All right. We are going to go over how to win every listing at your fee, at your price, and on your terms, no matter who you're competing against on a listing appointment. Now, some of you may say, well, I don't compete against anybody on a listing appointment because all the ones I go to are from referrals. Maybe you run your business by referral and through your sphere, and that's fine because this presentation is something I've used on literally hundreds and hundreds of listing appointments. A lot of times I was able to use this listing presentation, and as of many of the agents on my team have used it when they've gone against agents who have sold more than they have. When I first started using this in 2000, I think it was 2012. Is that when we?
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah.
2012. I think it was like probably created 2011 by Mike and Jay. The purpose and why he did it was because he was trying to step out of his business and scale his real estate company and his team. But when it's all about you and the branding that you've put around your name, which is, we all know that our name is the brand. You are the brand. If you're watching this and you're a real estate agent, you are the brand.
Correct.
When somebody hires you, they're going to rehire you based off of their experience that for the most part, the real estate agent is the one that controls that experience from beginning to end. Now, you may have a closing coordinator or some assistants in the middle, maybe a stager, photographer. They're all part of your team, but they're going to remember the experience that you had. And when you have a team leader who's, possibly spending $10, $15, $20,000 a month in marketing and their name's all over it and you're on the team, you need a presentation that supersedes that name so that you can not only, really deliver, or I should say, articulate the value that you're going to bring to the table with a system, not hire me because I'm number one, because that right there will not scale if you're trying to scale your team or business. So let's get right into it. Before we do on this, go ahead, John.
I was if just add a little context for everybody tuning in to just understand this, right? And this is a process. And Al, you had mentioned there that we were working to create a duplicatable system process to where anybody can going out on those opportunities. It didn't have to be Jay. We talk all the time, we can't scale hero. And so we were looking for a process. And not until I went through Chris Voss's book, Never Split the Difference, it really hit home what we're trying to do here. And what one of the principles that he breaks down within negotiating is that it's not that, Al, you're right. That's right. The principle is right. And so the same thing here with the presentation is that we want them to believe that it's not Al is the best solution for them, but that this process is the best solution for them to accomplish their goals. And it's one of the key questions that we always ask when we're asking for the business after we go through the presentation is, do you believe or you see how this process can help you get to X, Y, and Z? And that's what we're looking for is like, yeah, we do believe that this process, it's not, yeah, Al, we believe you. We want them to believe that this is the process. So I just want to kind of set that context as you're diving in through all of this.
No, it's absolutely right. And this came along for me at the perfect timing, because a couple years going into me, before I stepped out of that listing side of the business, I started scaling my business up pretty fast. And we were spending, over $20,000 just in marketing and leads coming in. And a lot of times my inside salesperson would take the call and say, well, isn't Al coming out? And the same thing was happening with Jay Kinder in Lawton, because all the billboards and the radio, and they'd want Jay. But when you have a system like this, it doesn't matter whether you're new in the business. You could be brand new. If you master this system, you can compete against someone who's been in the business for 20 years, because this isn't about the fact that someone's got 20 years under their belt. This isn't about the fact that their face is plastered all over, billboard, social media, or even being talked about on the radio. It sticks to what you just talked about, John, which is the process. So without further ado, I thought you might get a kick out of that. So this is, the original, just to let everyone know, I mean, this is literally one of the original from going back to 2014. I saw that and I just had to put a different slide in there, but this
I love it.
Presentation. Yeah. That was before I could grow any hair on my face. So, so there you have it. Before we dip in, Mary Simmons Maloney, one of our honey badgers out in San Diego, who just has a booming business out there. She's one of the top agents in San Diego, runs an amazing business. She watched Jay's presentation, and I believe that was Thursday morning or afternoon when he gave it. She literally left that same weekend, drove home, went to this listing appointment, signed a 575, beat another agent out who was offering to do it for less commission. She convinced them that it was about the process, not the price. She had another listing appointment the very next day, and she posted this, which was super cool to see. Whoops, I skipped one. Yeah, so this one she went and listed. She just used the exact same system, listed at $950,000. If nobody, you don't believe me, there's the date, January 20th, right there, which was only a couple days ago. So great job, Mary. Love it when somebody literally takes something by the horns, implements it right away, and then sees these results.
Yeah.
We're not making this stuff up. These principles, it doesn't matter what city you're in. It doesn't matter what price range. Now, Mary happens to be in San Diego. It's a great price range over there, but it works in Cleveland. It works in Houston.
It works in Lawton, Oklahoma.
What's that?
I said it works in Lawton, Oklahoma.
It works in Lawton, Oklahoma. And it's going to work for anybody who pays really good attention here and listens twice as hard. So let's get right into it.
This is gold out with Mary, right? For example, right? You know, no ego. Mary's been on Expert Mentors. She has a ton of value, and that's what I love about this group and working together. It's like she has an amazing business. I mean, go watch her Expert Mentors live. I mean, she ain't got to go out and do all of this stuff, but she's pushing herself to get better each and every day. She's taking massive action. She's implementing. And I love her little hashtag, loving the listings again. So
yeah.
That's awesome.
It is. Loving the listings again. It's on like Donkey Kong.
Yeah, I love it. So that's super cool. Super cool.
Love it. Yes. So this is what our listing presentation looks like. Our Expert Advisor home selling system focuses on 7 laws that they're just universal. They're called laws because they're principles. And within those 7 laws, we have over 100 I want to say it's over 120,
115 different variables
that for each law, and the price that someone's going to get for their home, it's either going to reflect that those principles and variables were attended to and that we followed them, or we didn't. And that's why, and these stats may not be that accurate, but
we've updated them through 2018 through NAR. So the average agent only sells less than 5 homes per year. That number's dropped significantly, and
it's dropped because so many people have come into the marketplace. So these are old stats, but this is just an old presentation. If anybody's interested in getting one of these, especially if you're in our Honey Badger Mastermind or Fast Forward movement. Just send us a message and we'll tell you how you can get this, but it'll have the updated stats. But the bottom line is that sellers who are getting the wrong advice by agents who aren't following a proven, repeatable process are leaving money on the table. And we've seen it time and time again when an agent wants to just stab the sign in the front yard, throw them into the MLS, take some pictures with their iPhone, and skip all of these steps. Now, when you're a hungry agent, or let me put it this way, when you're a starving agent and you don't know where your next deal's coming from, I can understand why somebody would want to do that. But it does not do the sellers, which you have a fiduciary responsibility to make sure that you're crossing every T and dotting the I, and more importantly, giving them the best advice, telling them what they need to hear, not what they want to hear, and potentially overpricing the property just to get that sign in the yard, just to get the signature on the listing. That's not what this is about. So why did we create it? Because let's face it, there's in every market you have tough competitors. In every market you have competitors like who these people are, not Pam and Barry. These were Jay's #1 competitors. They were top 10 RE/MAX agents in the world. And so if you're hanging your hat, or you have somebody that's a competitor in your marketplace and they're hanging their hat on, I sell 100 houses a year, or I sell 300 or 500 or 1,000 or whatever, and they're this really, really good competitor, you have to differentiate yourself from that competitor and anybody else that you could potentially going against, because 90% of the agents that go out there with the big box company listing presentation talks about how the company is so great. And if they're actually a pretty high producer, maybe they're going to even break out the awards that they won last year or the year before that, and they make it all about them. Or worse, this is even worse, they make it all about their company and how their company is the best. Sellers do not care about your company. They don't care about how many awards. And let me tell you guys something right now. I've got a lot of awards. You won't find them. They're in a bottom drawer somewhere buried, maybe even a box, because here's what I found out. I took them to the bank and they wouldn't let me deposit my awards.
That's a shame.
Yeah. Yeah. Can't do anything with them. But what we can do is we can deposit commission dollars, and we can earn more commission dollars and serve people at the highest level if we use this system.
Yep.
So what, and this happened to Mary too. She said that she went up against an agent. We call agents who like to drop their commission. We have it in here, drop in their pants. AFAs, or average frustrated agents, meaning they're frustrated. They don't really have a process they follow. So really the best solution for them is to drop their pants and drop the commissions, because they don't have a process. And without a process, they can't articulate the value. Do you have anything you wanted to add to that, John?
Yeah, absence of value, people question price. And when you're trying to wing it and you don't have a process or a presentation like this that helps you articulate your value, then this is what you compete with, right? It's a race to the bottom, and someone's always going to do it cheaper than you will. So
ain't that the truth?
There's a better way.
Race to the bottom. Someone's always going to be able to figure out to do it cheaper. And so that's super important for everyone that's listening to remember that. We never want to compete on price. We want to articulate the value and compete on value. All right. So why is this thing not going now? There we go. So scalability, kind of going back, and I'd already talked about this a little bit earlier, but if the system was built because it's scalable, a characteristic of a system, model, or function that describes its capability to cope and perform under an increased or expanding workload. A system that scales well will be able to maintain or even increase its level of performance or efficiency when tested by larger operational demands. So scalability, when we're scaling a system, we should be able to use it no matter if we're on point with our trainings, with anybody. You should, when it's a scalable system, it doesn't matter whether it's me walking in the door, John Kitchen's walking in the door, or someone who's just got their license a few months ago and just really got trained really, really well. Really, it boils down to the execution of the skills that you learn and following a system that's step by step and not skipping the steps. And we're going to go through those steps. Anything you wanted to add on that, John?
Well, the first thing, and it's on my board here in the office, and it's just a constant reminder. And this is how we know, from a training perspective, if you get objections, is that you skipped a step. And the little saying up there is, skipping steps only presents the illusion of speed. If you think that you're going to shortcut this process, you're going to have to deal with whatever you don't address in the future. And most of the time, after you have an offer and it comes into time to negotiate. So it really puts you at a disadvantage. So
I have a confession to make about that. So, I went on an appointment, I don't know, I think it was about a year, maybe it was a little more than a year and a half ago. And I skipped some steps because I was rusty. I hadn't been on appointments in a long time. I haven't, and once you get good, your goal for everyone that's listening to this is when you go out and use it, like just go out and do it, and you may mess up, and that's okay. But your goal should be you'll master this if you go on 20. That's the key. The key here is 20 appointments. I went out on one, I hadn't been on an appointment in such a long time. And to be honest with you, I'm like, I've listed hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of homes I could list. I skipped almost all the steps, and I didn't get the listing. And I was like, how the heck did I not get that listing? And I was really upset with myself because obviously I don't like losing, but I know what was wrong. I didn't even have to call and ask them why I didn't get the listing. It's because I skipped steps. I didn't go through what the steps that we're talking here. But I'll tell you this, every time when I was going on listing appointments, sometimes anywhere from 5 to 10 a week, I would never skip the steps. I would literally just follow and trust the system. And guess what? I got 90% of the listing appointments that I went on.
That's awesome.
So the 9 steps to success: articulate the value, the seller counseling interview, which I'm going to go over in a minute, establishing superiority, the 4-minute close. That's when I snuck in. I don't know if you remember this, when I presented it at EGS, I started using this little quick 4-minute close that was before we would start to develop rapport. I went in and I'm going to share that dialogue with everybody.
That's awesome.
Of course, we have to get rapport, establish authority, follow the process, positioning, and of course, we have to deliver on the value if we're going to articulate it the way we did. So, John, we have a proven, repeatable process that's backed by market research to sell your home for up to 18% more than methods of traditional real estate agents. Would you like me to show you how we do that?
Absolutely.
Articulating the value is not only a differentiator, but again, it's another way that we're going to be able to build our value and really separate ourselves from the competition, especially when it's a seller who is interviewing a couple of agents. One of the specialties that I did when I was growing my business is I listed expireds and for sale by owners. And when somebody expires, they were on the market for 6 or sometimes 12 months, they're burnt out. They're not happy. They feel like, sometimes they feel like they were just giving the wrong advice or their agent just, really just didn't do them the service that they hired them to do. And they feel like they wasted all this time. So you kind of have to go in with a different mindset when they're going to be interviewing other agents, because they don't want to make the same mistake that they made the first time around, the second time around. So people sometimes, when their house expires and doesn't sell, they then start to actually interview multiple agents. And when you do that, a lot of the agents are using the same tactics we talked about earlier, talking about their company, talking about themselves, me. And we really differentiate ourselves by talking about our proven, repeatable process and articulating that value. And this is just a real easy, I can say this in my sleep because I've said it so many times. There really isn't one seller that's going to step up and say, no, I don't think I'm interested in showing me how I can earn 18% more of my commissions on that. So the seller counseling interview, I kind of call this like close number 1.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And this really is a step that you cannot skip. We're going to be gathering information. We're asking the hard questions, and we're also setting ourselves up to start to build rapport with this, believe it or not. So, the information gathering, that's the easy part. Number of bedrooms, baths, I'm sure that everybody listening does that, but we take it a couple steps further. We go into, what would you say the best features of your home are? Now, John, if I were to ask you that, I've been to your house, it's absolutely stunning. You and Holly have a great, if I were to ask you, and I'm coming over to your house, and hey, John, just out of curiosity, what are the best things that you and Holly love about your house? What would you say?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely make sure the season's right so we can take advantage of the outdoor fireplace. Love the hardwood floors, big, tall, open, ceilings, multiple, bedrooms for every kid. Got the office at the house, and just open area to entertain.
Well, if we were to ask Holly and she was on the phone, John, what do you think Holly would say?
I don't know if she'd say the fireplace, but she would. There would be some of the same features in there as well.
Yeah, she might say the kitchen.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been to your house. Your house is awesome, and you got an amazing Long Island kitchen for entertaining. It's amazing, ton of counter space. So I'm writing these notes down, going into even further, their target date. When do they want to be moved by? And, you can see the questions here. Is anyone else involved in the sale? Have you done any upgrades before you purchased it? And this is a shortened version of the seller counseling interview. But at the end, there's a couple key things that you can't see on this sheet. One of the last questions they ask is, are you going to be interviewing other agents, or are we the only people that you're interviewing for the job? And if they say that they're interviewing other agents, this is just a super awesome trick that we used every time to make sure that we're going in last and that they don't list before they meet us. And it's very simple dialogue. And again, when you get our updated seller counseling interview, this has to be shortened version of it so it fits on the screen. The last couple questions are this. So John, Holly, when we come out, I know you're going to be interviewing. What we'd like you to do is we'd like to come in last if that's okay. And here's the reason why. A lot of our agents, and we want you to be able to see everything that's available out there as far as the competition and really know before you see our system. But do us a favor. Some of the agents are going to try to, well, they try to use slimy sales tactics and trying to get you to sign with them before you meet with us. And just do me a favor. Don't fall for any of those sales tactics of people trying to strong arm you into. What they want you to do is sign with them. Sometimes they'll even drop their commission just to get you to sign right there and then. That's the worst thing that you can do. What they're wanting to do is, if they know that you're meeting with us, they don't want you to see our system. Just promise me that you're going to, before you make the decision, you're going to see our system and make sure that we come in last. And then make sure that appointment is set after the other people come in. Once they agree to that, you've got the appointment set, the last question on this form will say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, as long as everything sounds good and you love our program, you like everything that we have to offer as far as, and we're agreeing on price, are you ready to list your home when I come out? And that most of the time you're going to get a yes. Now you may get an objection right then and there, but we'll handle that when we get in the door. But set the appointment and make sure that you follow up and send a text and a reminder, and making sure that you're still on from that appointment. Anything to add, John?
Yeah, the key there is make sure you ask all the questions. Make sure all of the decision makers are going to be present. It is really, and ideally, if you're not the one going through that, the reality is that if you're the one that's going through that counseling interview, you're going to shortcut and not ask questions. And what's going to happen is when you get to the home, the one question you don't ask is what you get hit with when you walk in the door. And it's going to be like, I could have saved some time. This is an unqualified opportunity. It's a waste of my time. I don't have all of the decision makers present. So it's just really, really important to make sure that you ask all the questions in the seller counseling interview. If not, what you don't ask, you will get hit with when you walk in the door.
Right. Awesome, Ed. Absolutely. So superiority, you never want to sell to somebody or try to sell to somebody that hasn't already been introduced to you where you haven't been pre-positioned as an expert. So what we would do is we'd send our seller counseling, not our seller counseling, we'd send our pre-listing packet out prior to going out if we were able. Sometimes it was the very next day, but at the end of the day, I really wanted them to absorb what we were about before I even walked in there. The last thing that I want to do is go in there and pitch stuff about me, because it's about our process. But at the same time, for them to listen to me, there's ways of establishing superiority, and this is the way that I have done it. So, I co-authored a book called Cracking the Real Estate Code. I co-authored that with probably about a dozen of other real estate agents. There's things that you can do for very, very low money to do that'll establish you as an expert. If you're on the cover of a book, you're going to be establishing yourself. They don't need to read the book. It doesn't really matter. The fact that you co-authored or authored a book is a big deal. Some of the other things is we have a tear sheet, and that's the tear sheet. I don't know if people can see my cursor, but the tear sheet is what we had up over here. It says real estate at the top. It's literally like it puts you on the cover of a magazine tear sheet. And when someone sees that, again, it's establishing, wow, this person's on, the cover of a real estate magazine, and it's establishing that professionalism, that superiority. And the reason why we need that, along with establishing the authority, so superiority and authority, is so that they listen to you when it comes time. They not just so that they hire you, but they listen to your advice when it comes time to make the decision on price, or even when it's time to make a decision to take an offer that maybe they're not wanting to take because it's not high enough. We need them to listen. Anything to add to that, John?
No, I mean, and you don't have to, have it perfect, and you need to go out and have a book to be able to start sending that thud factor and showing up, right? I mean, leverage, you can get, the tear sheets, they're relatively inexpensive. Just some high quality photos that need to go in there. All the content and everything is done for you. The white papers, you can send those. You can create a testimonial, sheet, one sheet with some testimonials, and on there. Ideally, you know, they align to who you're meeting with. So maybe you have a list of testimonials from expires. Maybe you have a list of testimonials from for sale by owners, and you know those go in the packet depending upon who you're meeting with, and you get it out, right? If you set the appointment out a couple of days to where mail or snail mail will get it. If not, drop it off. Yeah, get it to their door.
Joel, along with our marketing team, a couple years ago, created our own tear sheet, which looks almost identical to what everyone's seen in that slide. But on the inside, we put, I don't know, I think it was like 2 or 3 pages of Zillow reviews, and just piled them on there. And again, I want them to absorb this information prior to me even getting there to establish that superiority. The other thing that we want them to do is we want them to take a look at this video. And this video, again, this is available to anybody who goes through our expert advisor training. That's part of our mastermind. But this video was so key for me because I would not go through the presentation with them until they viewed this video, because it's not like it's a shortcut. The reason is that there were studies done that a cartoon is not judged. So if, you know, you could have a presentation that's done by you, or, you know, you could hire even an actor or whatever, yes. But the bottom line is that they're judged the second that they're, you know, the human brain judges who's ever giving that presentation. You know, if they're a blonde and maybe they don't like blondes or whatever, they're being judged for that. If they're a brunette, but they like blondes better, maybe they're being judged for that. And so a cartoon was found as a tool that's not judged. And on top of that, this thing gives the presentation perfectly every time you press play. And I remember one time I was, I'm in Cleveland area, but the suburb that we're located is a Westlake area. And I went into this really high-end home in Westlake, and it was a great couple. I'm still friends, and they still refer me today. Love this couple. But I sat down with them. Before we sat down, I asked them, and we'll go over this front talk, you know, if they had seen the information that I sent. And they said, Al, to be honest with you, we got it, but we haven't even had a chance to look at it. And I said, no problem. So what we did there was I went ahead and said, you guys watch the video. I hit play on my laptop, and I went around and looked at the house real quick, and then circled back and grabbed them and said, hey, you know, kind of give me the quick tour. I just went and saw everything for myself. Tell me about your better. And that I spent that time getting rapport, but I wanted them to watch the video. And it was so important. And, you know, for me, that was a $650,000 listing. They listed with me right then and there. They saw that I had a process that I followed, and that I didn't skip steps. So the video is huge. Any comments on the video?
No, just trust it as part of the process. Get it out to them. You want to make sure in the seller counseling interview that you have a valid email address that they check, that you can send them something that, you know, get their, you know, hey, do me a favor. Would you, you know, please, could you promise me to take a look at the video that I'm going to send to you before we meet? It's really important. It'll really help you understand the process that we're going to be talking about when we get together on, you know, Thursday afternoon. So.
Yep. Now, I had created a video, and we're not going to play that, but I also had another video that I would send out that talked about our team as well. So before we get into rapport, let's talk about the 4-minute close. So the 4-minute close is pretty straightforward and simple, but it's what I do when the first 4 minutes that I walk in the door. So I literally, you know, knock, come in, and what I would normally do is I'd say, hey, you know, where's the kitchen table? Let me set my things down. And then we go and I have them give them the tour. And that's worked very well. But when I started using this little front talk that I would do, it literally set the table and helped me close even more. I ended up converting more of my listings because I inserted this small, short little 4-minute close before I went and started to establish a rapport and had them show me the house. And it goes something like this. Hey, John, it's my name's Al. Thanks for having me over. If you don't mind, you know, where's your kitchen table so I can set the stuff down? Go to the kitchen table. Now, John, before I get started today, I just wanted to thank you for having me to your house. I appreciate the opportunity to be a real estate agent. And at the end of our time together, there's going to be one of three things that typically occur. One, if I determine that I'm unable to help you, is it okay if I'm straight with you and I just let you know that?
Yep. Absolutely.
Awesome. Great. And if you don't think that I can help you or you don't want our help, is it okay if you just let me know that, and that way we won't waste each other's time? My feelings won't be hurt. I can take it.
Sure. Absolutely.
Great. The third thing that could happen is that I'll find out that I can help you. And if that's the case, we can spend the last bit of our time talking about that, what that looks like. Does that sound okay to you?
Sounds great.
Cool. So this is the time where most agents, they're going to do a dance and tell you how great they are. Instead of me talking about how great I am or my company is, I'd like to just talk about you and take my sales hat off and just talk about you. Is that okay?
Perfect.
Cool. Just want to confirm a couple quick things before you show me your house. When we spoke, or if you have an ISA setting this up, I would say when you spoke with Matt, my assistant, you had said the reason that you wanted to move down to Dallas was you were just getting too tired of the cold up here in Cleveland, and you wanted to get into that warmer climate and get around your family that's in Dallas. Is that still the case?
That is it, man. Too damn cold here in the land.
Oh, I hear you, man. I get you. Well, unlike the average agent, I'm not going to be here filling your head with things that you want to hear just so I can put my sign in your yard. In fact, I turn down more listings than I take, but I'm going to be telling you what you need to hear in order for you to make the best decision. Is that okay with you?
Yes. Appreciate that.
Awesome. Well, John, all I ask is that when we're all said and done, you're comfortable with my home selling system. I'm going to ask you to hire me as your real estate agent. And in return, just give me a simple yes or no, and we can get started. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Awesome. All right. Show me this awesome house. And that's kind of where, in that, I read that verbatim. Obviously I didn't, that is the script. Sometimes it was, I varied from it slightly here and there, but that was basically the script that set the table, that said, I'm here to help you. And if I can help you, I'm going to help you, and I'm going to give you that straight advice. And I got their permission to have a real conversation with them versus telling them that what they want to hear. And I anchored that because what I know is that what most agents do is they give them the price that they want to hear, and they tell them what they want to hear. And when it comes time to changing the nasty carpet out, they don't tell them that because, and I know I get it, because they don't want to break rapport. I'm going to show you how to be able to do that without breaking rapport, because the worst thing that you can do is go in there and start, telling them that their flooring is horrible and that their cabinets are dated and they, or that the powder blue wall in the kids' bedroom needs to be painted and all those things. Because what's going to happen is break rapport.
Sure.
And so, but I'm getting the permission from them up front to have really a frank conversation as their expert. And that's to go a really long way deeper into the process.
Perfect.
Cool. All right. So the 4-minute close. Where are we at here? There we go. So rapport. So, I mean, I can tell you that this has happened to myself. It's happened to, I know Jay's told some stories where you literally go into an appointment. You think that you nailed it, right? You really do. You're like, and then you don't get it. And you're like,
yep.
Why didn't I get it? I went through the process. I said they loved the process, this and that. But what did I skip? And oftentimes you didn't get rapport with their client. Now there's coaches out there that tell you, don't ever worry about getting rapport. Just go for the signature. That has never really worked for me. People want to do business with people that are like them, that are like them, and that they genuinely like and trust. And that's what we're doing when we're establishing the rapport with somebody. So what I would say is, as you're going through the house, you have that seller counseling interview. I never really carried it around with me. What I would do is I'd memorize the highlights of that seller counseling interview, and I'd make sure that I was bringing them up. So remember, they're not going to remember most of the time the conversation that you had with them when you were doing the seller counseling interview. So this is just a little ninja trick that we use where we're going to basically feed back to them the things that they said they loved about the house. So as they're showing you the house, you're remembering John's taking the lead. So John's showing me the house. If John's taking the lead and showing the house, John more than likely is the decision maker, unless, of course, Holly told him to show the house, right? So I know that John's showing the house. He goes, no, I'll show you the house. He takes the lead. I know he's the decision maker at that point. And I also know, because I took really good notes on the seller counseling interview, that he loves his outdoor fireplace. He loves his hardwood floors. He loves the, what did you say, the ceilings?
Yeah, tall ceilings, the floors, the office, yeah.
So as we're going around and John's pointing stuff out, I'm going to beat him to the punch. When we get to the back, and before we even step out, I said, oh, you got this outdoor fireplace is amazing. I immediately just got rapport with John, because before it even came out of his mouth, he forgot he told me about that. But I'm already connecting with him on an inner level. And what we call that actually is deep affinity. There's surface level affinity, and then there's deep affinity. Yes. And when you're connecting with someone on a deeper level, and you're basically feeding back to them what's already up in their brain, you're going to be connecting them with them on a deep level, and you'll be able to get rapport. Anything to add, John?
Yeah, it's key. A couple things. Jay always talks about, as you're coming up to the property or whatever, as you're doing your due diligence, even before, if they've got, if you drive an Escalade and they've got an Escalade in the driveway, make sure you talk about that, right? Jay always shares, his affinity with Harley, Harley Davidson. That's a strong affinity. If somebody, has a Harley, I mean, that's a tight affinity, a tight group. And so being able to speak to where you guys have a common connection, just some other little things that you guys are aware of, be mindful, us guys, be mindful of, trying to build rapport, but not coming across creepy, with the, in there, with the spouse, and just little things, right? You just use, human sense, not even common sense, but human sense, your people skills. Right. Definitely, if it's sometimes harder for us guys to connect with women on that level, just know, handbags and shoes, right? If you see those, you can always make a nice comment about that. That goes a long ways. Guys, watches, shoes, it goes a long ways. Those little things like that help you build rapport. Just be mindful of it, and make sure that you stay in rapport throughout the whole process.
Yeah. So we're sitting there saying, don't give them this advice. Don't give them that advice, especially when it comes down to the decor. I've made the mistake before of saying, guys, this wallpaper is really going to need to go. And I completely lost rapport with the lady, because she put that wallpaper up. And she busted her butt on putting that up, and she actually really liked it. So what I always did was, I wasn't there to critique their decor. I'm not there to tell them that the wallpaper has to come down. That's our stager, Janice. So when they ask me that question, I am not going to lose rapport by accidentally opening my mouth up and giving them my opinion, when our opinion could be fact. Maybe they really do need to take that wallpaper down. But that's part of my process. In fact, it's step 2. After step 1 is I come out, we do a listing appointment where I counsel them as an expert advisor and advise them on what they need to do next. That next step, almost always, is Janice. And that's our stager here. If you have a Janice in your area, I suggest you get one. If you don't, she is an amazing stager. And I put the heat of what they need to do after they've already made the decision to list with us, because of the process that we follow. I get a signature on a listing agreement, and I literally will close, not for them to do business with me, but I would literally pick the phone up and start calling Janice and saying, our first step is to get Janice. Would you agree that the first step in our process is getting Janice out here as soon as possible? Should I see when she's available? And most of the time they'd say, well, they'd look at each other and they'd be like, yes. Yeah, I think you should do that. Let's get her in because I know her schedule, fills up super fast. Let's go ahead and get you in the books right now. And that was kind of like them saying, you know what? I'm sold on the process. Let's get Janice out there. Let Janice or your stager tell them that the wallpaper needs to come down. Let Janice say that, the pile of collected hoarding boxes that are piling up in the basement as high as the ceiling. Let Janice tell them that that needs to come out and they need to get a storage unit and empty out some of these things. Because frankly, she is the expert, and we should be utilizing and leveraging our team of experts. And I can't tell you, I kind of learned this lesson early on. Not all of my agents have learned that early on. A lot of them, it took them a couple listings that they needed to lose before they figured, you know what, I better keep my mouth shut and not break rapport with these folks. And it doesn't mean that you don't tell them, what they need to hear as far as expert advice, this and that. What it means is when it comes to decor and stuff like that, don't break rapport.
For sure.
Use your stager.
Yeah, and even if you don't have a stager, there's a piece here in the process that you'll start to see here in a second to where, it's what Al said at the beginning, right? We're proactively managing all the variables in the process here. And, it's elastic to, the conditions and how much we manage or don't manage, right? Right. It's how we position your home in the market. And we never, that's another piece of language that you guys always want to use. It's about how we're positioning your home in the market. Even when you need to get a price reduction, hey, we need to talk about how we need to possibly reposition your home in the market. And we can position it in the market and have it look like a hoarder house, and you're going to get one type of offer. We can, do all of these, proactively manage all of these variables, position it in the market, and we're going to get a different type of offer. So you just trust the process. That will all come out. You don't have to throw up on them as you're walking through. Just trust and follow the process.
Love it. So when we're talking about authority, the next step in establishing authority, which goes right along with the superiority, is making sure that they understand that you know what you're talking about and you are an expert. And I'm just here to tell everybody, there is no skipping this step. You can't be an expert without actually being an expert. They say, fake it before you make it. Can't really fake this part. You got to really know your numbers. If you're going out there to the neighborhood, you should know how many homes are on the market. You should know how many sold in the last 6 months. And you should be able to really show them how many months of inventory are on the market at a given time, so that they have an expectation of how long it should take them to sell. If we were back in 2011, 2010, 12, in that area, man, we had 6 months of inventory at any given time on the market. So if they wanted it to sell in less than 6 months, they needed to price it more aggressively, but that was kind of where it's at. And if we fast forward to the last 2 years, 2017, 2018, we can't keep a house on the market because inventory levels are low, but it's how we articulate those. And we don't use what we call a CMA. What a lot of real estate, I've been licensed since 98, and we were taught how, this is how you price a house. You pull up a comparative market analysis, or a CMA. And let me tell everybody listening, if you use a CMA, it's fine to do that type of homework prior to, but you never want to bring a CMA into a listing presentation, because the chances are, if you're going against other listing agents, especially if they're top agents, what do you think that they're going to be using when they come in and present price?
They're going to throw down and
they're going to be using a CMA.
Yeah.
They're saying, well, here's my CMA. Yeah. So this is how you differentiate yourself when you're gaining authority. First of all, you say, back in, a few decades ago, they used to do this thing called a CMA. And a CMA looks at historical data and tries to come to a conclusion of where you should be priced based off of historical data. And the historical data in a CMA doesn't take into account or consideration why they sold their house. Heck, somebody might have sold a home in your neighborhood and they were getting a divorce, or maybe there was a death or something bad that happened that forced them to lowball and just throw that that home on the market and fire sale it, and they may not have gotten top dollar. So it's important you look at the different the reports. Now, what I would do is I would print out not a CMA, but I'd have all the statistic data. I'd go to the national view, and you can use what
current matters.
Keeping current matters gives you that 1,000-foot view of what's going on in the national market, and really dialing in what's happening with interest rates right now. To be an expert and to establish an authority, you really need to know these statistics, and they should roll off the top of your tongue. So if you're meeting face to face, you should be able to have an intelligent conversation. It doesn't really need to last that long either. It could be 5-6 minutes to establish authority, meaning they're going to come to a point when you're successful with this step. They step back and they're like, damn, Al knows what he's talking about. They may not say that out loud, but that's what they're thinking when we've done this step right. They know that I know more than they do about the current market. And when it came to the days on the market, I'm sorry, the number of months of inventory, which was a big piece of our presentation, I would memorize that part. That's the part where I would come in. When I got to this step in the presentation, I would know on a more of a macro level, after I went through the national view, on a macro level, how many homes are currently on the market that they would be competing with, how many of those homes that they'd be competing with sold in the last 6 months. So I'd establish, how much inventory there were, how many months of inventory, and I would spit that out. And it's not that hard. You could literally memorize that in the car before you walk in there. But by me knowing it, without even having to look at a piece of paper and knowing it, I would establish, like, you can't deny that I knew what was going on in that market.
That's right.
And it was huge.
For sure.
Anything to add?
Yeah, the three reports that we've used over the years is that we study Keeping Current Matters, comes out on a monthly basis just to stay in tune to what's going on. Like you said, it's the high level view across the country, kind of what's going on. Real Market Reports is the other reports that we use that brings to maybe that 1,000. I mean, you're able to see over the market, right? You have that, you're using it, but then we use Focus First, where you get right into the weeds. And Focus First is just a visual pricing guide, and it helps you create particular slides. There's some amazing ones in there that you can leverage. And keep in mind, guys, you're not going to use everything that they provide there. One, it's increasing your knowledge, but also to pick and pull depending upon what type of property, what type of situation that you're in, that you want to be able to use within your presentation to help you create authority.
Love it.
Cool.
Awesome. All right. And again, the reason that we're establishing this authority is so that they listen to you. We need them to listen to you when it's time to listen. And if you're able to do that, you're going to get a lot less friction and pushback on things. Just like when a doctor has established authority, you listen to what they say when they say to do it. This is what we're really trying to establish here with the step in authority. All right. So the process, we went over it earlier. A proven, repeatable system backed by market research to sell them for up to 18% more than traditional real estate agents. Now, the video that I sent went through every one of these laws. Mm-hmm. And some people, they do it a little bit differently. They'll actually go through each one of those individually. That's actually how we started out before we had the whiteboard video. But the whiteboard video, that's why it was so important. I didn't want to come in and watch their eyes gloss over with too much information. I do touch on these laws because this is really the foundation of our process. And when we're following the process, you can see that when you get your presentation, there's little mini closes at the end of each one of these. So the law of expertise, law of differentiation, how are we differentiating the property from others? We do that through expert staging advice, quality of life upgrades, professional pre-inspections, home warranties, the law of exposure. How are we exposing it? A lot of people say, well, I'm going to put you on hundreds and hundreds of websites. When we know the most important sites to be on, we want to be at the top of those. So we put that in there with, Trulia, Zillow, Realtor.com, Google, and we explain how we use that 90% of the buyers are using the internet, and how we're able to get you at the top of those searches through our marketing and laws of exposure. Law of cooperation. People think that that their listing agents are the ones that sell these houses. And if anyone's been in the business long enough, you know that most deals are done by a cooperative co-broke transaction, which means you should have some kind of a system in place to work with these co-brokes. And this kind of breaks down the different laws on that. And it's just important that you articulate these, because what this boils down to is there's all these variables. And I think you said that there's over 150 different variables. And the dialogue and the transition statement for anybody taking notes would be, there's over 150 variables, as you can see. And depending on how we manage these variables will determine whether we position your home to attract a high offer or a low offer. And John, Holly, you do want to attract a high offer, correct?
Correct.
Right. So getting that buy-in that they want to attract a high offer versus a low offer is really going to position, again, for them to listen to you when it's time to listen. Uh-oh. Hold up.
Yeah, I think the thing there too, while you're pulling that back up for everybody to understand, is that, you're going to hit on certain points depending upon too, what you need to clearly articulate, right? If you're competing and you're usually competing with somebody that drops their pants, like what we talked about in the beginning, you really want to spend some time on law of cooperation, because that's where you really nail down the importance of being able to co-broke what's competitive in the market. And you don't want to, have to reduce the fee there. And so you hit on certain things. Remember, guys, every one of these points is in there for a reason. It's in there because through trial and error, where we got beat up and where we would lose is because we weren't articulating this. And it's just, you don't have to go deep. You only need to pick and pull what applies to the current situation. And, you can quickly hit on these and go through. The key thing that I really think out with these is the transitions through each of the laws. You just want to get them nodding their head yes. That's what we're looking for. And so that's the key thing. That's where we spend a lot of time at boot camp, is focused on the transitions, because you can leverage this and to go through it. But the key thing is, how do you know to transition from law to law
right,
that you need to hit?
Yeah. And again, this is a super high level view we're doing here. We do not have the time. The boot camp, actually, if you'd like to attend, and you can give some information on that, John, afterwards, but that's where we do a deep dive, literally spend 3 days getting the marbles out of your mouth and showing you exactly what to do, what order, what to say in what order, tonality. We get really, it's the Navy SEALs of real estate training. And we're not going to be able to establish that here in the short hour we have with everybody. So we're not going to try to do that, but you're absolutely right. For instance, if you know that just kind of you're getting a sense that they're going to try to beat you up on commission, for instance, you never want to skip law number 4, law of cooperation, because it goes into the why you want to leverage the commission to make sure that the best agents come in and bring strong offers. And and by you going through that and getting their buy-in with that little trial close, it's going to reduce the chances of them saying, well, would you take less? Because we just went over the law of cooperation. You wouldn't want to discount the commission that you're going to be giving that buyer's agent, because you don't want, you want the best agents in town to be excited about bringing good offers. If they're going to just make whatever they're going to make on all the other homes that are on the market, there's no differentiation with that. So I used to hit on that all the time, and I rarely ever got any pushback on the commission. The other thing with the law of expertise, I know we're going fast here because we got to wrap up, but the law of expertise talks about the death of that CMA. Why we're putting that doubt in their head that if someone's using past data versus future data to price the home, that they could actually leave money on the table, and that they shouldn't trust anybody that's going to be pricing a home that way. And so by going through these, we're not slamming the competition or talking badly about the competition at all. But what we are talking about is our process and how it's differentiated from the rest. Law of negotiation, law of execution. That's the team that you have behind you. That's crossing T's and dotting the I's. Pre-listing team, marketing team, and kind of hitting on that and then getting that close, can you see how having, an entire team of people executing on this could put a few more dollars in your pocket? And at the end of the day, you've built some massive, massive value, not by going over. There's nothing in here about you or how great you are or that you're number one or that you're selling 300 homes. It's that you have this process that you followed. And that's where the positioning's at, which is our next. So the last thing that we do is we talk about positioning and price. Before we get to that, we're getting that buy-in.
Yep.
And we're getting that buy-in to the system. And that transition goes something like this. John, Holly, can you see by following the process that we have in here that we can position your home to attract the highest offer, and that you're going to not leave. This is going to ensure and bulletproof that you're not going to leave money on the table when you go to sell and attract low offers.
Yes.
Yes, and the buy-in, and then we can get into because what the number one thing they want to talk about is price, and we call that positioning and how to position the house on the market. Now, oftentimes I'm going to know going in, because I did my seller counseling interview, what they're thinking as far as the positioning goes. But before I ever get into actually where they're going to price and position their house, I want to make sure that I've got their buy-in to the system, and then we can get in. I mean, there's oftentimes where I listed homes where, I didn't have the exact price that we were going to list it at, because they knew based off of what Janice was going to tell them to do, that price was going to be elastic to the things that they were going to either do or don't do. And it also kind of takes your opinion out of the equation, because it's based off of the variables that we go through. Let me find it. Based off of these variables. So based off of the law of differentiation, are they going to do any upgrades? Are they going to use, professional home staging? Are they going to do the work that it's going to take to position the house correctly? And that's going to determine whether we're going to position it high, low, or in the middle of the market.
That's right. That's it, man.
And then, of course, you have to deliver on the value. There's all this that we're talking about. And if you're not actually able to deliver on that value, then you're going to look like a fraud, basically. So
right.
Make sure that you have that great stager. Make sure that you have the best photographer. Make sure that you have a great marketing team, or if you're doing all this on your own, make sure that you have, VAs are extremely inexpensive. Let me put it this way. If you don't have a team, jump on a team. If you don't have a team, create systems that you can kick out world-class marketing and make sure that everything's happening in order, because if you go and you nail this presentation and then you're not able to deliver on the value, it's going to blow up, because they're going to know that this was all just some big pitch and you didn't have anything behind it. Anything to add on that?
Yeah, you start to capture case studies along the way as you help people. It's one of, social proof is definitely one of the laws of influence, which is a must read for all of you guys as well, going through this process. Robert Cialdini's book Influence, and it's one of the laws, social proof. So make sure you have your social proof to where you've been able to maximize people. They believe that this is the best process for them. So that's the key. I know we stayed super high level for everybody here. Terry and David, got your questions. We'll follow up with you guys. I know we're pushing time here. And if you want to take this layers deeper, come join us in Frisco, February the 11th through the 13th. And you guys all have access to the digital training of this as part of, the Honey Badger Nation. So you guys can absolutely dive into it, go at your own pace. And, really go back and watch it as many times as you need.
Yep. And I want to tell you this too. I know that some of you that are watching this might be saying, yeah, but I've been on appointments where, it just doesn't happen this smooth, and there's, I can tell you this from being on literally like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of appointments is that, yeah, you're always going to have those people that are going to maybe throw you a curveball, or they're crazy. Our job is not to make mean people nice or crazy people sane or stupid smart. Our job is to find nice, sane, smart people and do business with them and share a process that we stick to as a professional. And I also believe, 100-0, it's our obligation. We have a fiduciary duty to take people and give them the right advice, tell them what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. That's our fiduciary responsibility. And I believe deeply that when somebody buys a listing and they just take a listing overpriced. Now, I know the market's real hot right now, so we can kind of get away with overpricing it by a little bit, but we've all seen listings that were, you'd go through the house and you'd be like, there's nothing wrong with this house. Why is it not selling? We all know what it is. It's grossly overpriced. Because if you're in a really hot market where there's sellers everywhere, where their buyers are fighting over homes and homes are going into multiple offer situations, it's probably overpriced. It's almost the number one thing every single time. Now, there could be a thing where, we have a deal where there's an indoor pool. And I could see things like, it's gorgeous. It's a beautiful home, but there's an indoor pool. I could see where that would be a stopper, right? You got to find that particular buyer for that house. But most of the homes that we're going to sell, if they're not selling in this kind of market in 60 days or less, it's probably price. And sometimes you're going to have to take you can always, people say, well, I'd like to try it at my price. If we do a really great job with this presentation and establish our authority and superiority, you generally won't get that pushback on price, because they're going to you're going to show them all the expireds and say, we don't want to end up on this list. We want to end up on the list of solds, right? In order to do that, we have to position the home correctly. And by positioning it up here, it's not going to get you down to Dallas in time.
That's right.
I think we'll just end on that. Pretty good set, high level. And if anybody has any questions or wants to get into either the online training or the boot camp, where do they go to sign up for that boot camp, John?
They can go in the Honey Badger group. The link's in there, posted at the top. And so they can there. And for Honey Badgers, you guys have a discount code because, ticket price at boot camp's $497. I know being in there, being part of the Honey Badger Nation, there's the Honey Badger discount, which gets tickets down to $197, which covers our cost. So
yes,
it's awesome. It's well worth the investment, and we look forward to seeing many of you there.
Love it.
Awesome. Appreciate you, brother. Great call. Thank you. Thanks, guys. Thanks, everybody, tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.
See you at the top.
From the top.